What's up, everybody? This is Fredrick Shani of TSC News right here on MNN2. We got a very special boxing edition of TSC News. We're going to be talking to boxing expert Tony Schultz, a man that has literally worn every hat in boxing. Maybe there's a couple he missed, but for the most part, he's worn them. We're going to talk about his clothing line. We're going to talk about McGregor versus Mayweather. But first, I want to send a very special shout out to Bullying We're Kicking It. It's an organization I've been involved with for a number of years. If you want to find out more information, visit we'rekickingit.org. They're based in the New York, New Jersey area and have been doing a tremendous job, not just raising awareness about bullying. I think we all know that bullying's bad. I think we all know that words hurt. But they do such a great job of actually creating after-school programs, giving kids an outlet. And what I love personally as a combat sports fan is they've gotten involved with some of the biggest stars in all of combat sports in boxing, MMA, and professional wrestling. And what better way to learn some discipline than by doing a martial art, doing boxing? It's a whole lot of fun. So much respect to the Bullying We're Kicking It crew. Now, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to go over. Before we get to our Tony Schultz interview, we had a chance to chat with our resident random fact checker, Scott Anderson, and you won't believe what random facts he's got this week. All right, Scott, with your new shades, I feel like you get some new shades and a new ensemble every week, which I guess works for you. Anyway, it is Boxing Meets Pro Wrestling Week here on TSC News. What have you got for us this week, buddy?
Well, before we get to that, Fred, you mentioned the hat, you mentioned the glasses. I try to keep it fresh, try to keep things, you know what they say about the celebrities. You don't want to be, photographed in the same dress twice. Well, I don't want to be on TSC News here in New York City in the same glasses and hat twice. Gotta stop, change it up. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. I'm not going to argue with that.
Fair enough. This week on our Boxing Wrestling Edition, I have a couple facts for you. Fred, of course, in the Boxing Wrestling Edition, we have to start off with he's a WWE Hall of Famer. He appeared at WrestleMania 14 in Boston. He is possibly the greatest heavyweight boxing champion of all time. I'm talking about Iron Mike Tyson. Yes, he was involved in boxing and wrestling. Also, how's about Muhammad Ali? He was a special guest referee at WrestleMania 1. More recent? Okay, we can go more recent. How's about WrestleMania 24? Floyd Money Mayweather appearing at WrestleMania 24. He defeated the Big Show in a match, believe it or not. He did use brass knucks, but he still did win the match. Now,
the win is all that counts.
The win is all that counts, and he's still undefeated. I don't know if that's on the record books, but he is undefeated, so let's keep that in mind. Now, Fred, back in the late 90s, WWE had a shoot fight style tournament. It was called the Brawl for All. I don't know if you remember that or not. Here's what happened in that tournament. Yeah, they had a few different guys, the Godfather, JBL, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, to name a few. And out of the shadows, out of nowhere, the dark horse was Bart Gunn. One half of the Smoking Guns, of course, with Billy Gunn, managed by Sonny, former WWE Tag Team Champions. So as we're talking about Bart Gunn, he went on to win this tournament. WWE decides to get this great idea at WrestleMania 15. Let's get Butterbean to go into a match with Bart Gunn. Now, Fred, as you showed a couple weeks back, Butterbean is a former TSC News guest. And you know Butterbean, you know Bart Gunn. This wasn't going to end well, and nobody in WWE saw it. Anyway, this was WrestleMania 15, 1999. Yours truly right here was there in the attendance.
And does Bart Gunn still have nightmares about you?
I think Bart Gunn's always going to have nightmares about me.
It is Throwback Thursday, Fred. You know what? I have an idea. Let's show the clip of when TSC News interviewed the one and only Fernando Vargas.
And Fernando, you know what some people are going to say, though, right? Your fans are going to say, okay, that Fernando's back on TV. He's going to eventually come back to the ring. Can you say to all those fans that you're officially retired?
I'm officially retired. The only person I fight with is with my wife, and I win all those fights. Nah, I'm playing. I'm playing. She wins her fair share. So no. I'm very blessed that I was able to accomplish a lot at a very young age and retire early too. So.
Well, they will see you in the ring, but just on the corner.
You will see me in the ring as a trainer. Yeah. And in one of the episodes, you'll see, an old sparring partner of mine, asked me if I would train him. And it was against somebody that I was originally supposed to fight. So you guys are going to, stay tuned to see that. I'm sure you guys are going to love that.
What do you think is the current state of boxing? I know a few years ago, a lot of people were saying, oh, boxing's dead, UFC's taking over, pro wrestling and UFC are the ones dominating the pay-per-view landscape. Yet this past year in boxing was pretty freaking good as far as pay-per-view goes and ratings go for HBO, Showtime, NBC. Do you feel like boxing's on a positive upswing?
Look, when people say that boxing is dead, they're ludicrous. They lost their mind because boxing will always have an up-and-coming, Floyd Mayweather, an up-and-coming Fernando Vargas, an up-and-coming, Canelo Alvarez, whoever it is, people that are going to make a name for themselves, you know what I mean? And they're not going to take no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're hungry to make a name for themselves. So when people say boxing dead and boxing will die, that's ridiculous. It's never going to die, and boxing will always reign above. So, yeah, we have our seasons of drought where, there might not be some big fights, but then the big fights come.
Before I get out of here, Fred, I have a question for you. This is the boxing wrestling edition of TSC News this week. What is the most famous I don't want to call it promotion, but sport match involving a boxer and a wrestler?
Ooh, well, if it's not going to be Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather this year, I would probably say Antonio Inoki versus Muhammad Ali, which you could check out more information about with Josh Gross's book available on Amazon. Great book if you want to know about some really interesting history in boxing, MMA, and pro wrestling.
Fred, I'm sorry, but the judges say you are incorrect.
What?
The answer we're looking for this week. This fight happened back in 1982. Happened in Los Angeles, California. However, it was not a real fight. I am talking about the one and only Rocky Balboa going against Thunder Lips in Rocky 3.
Scott, that fight's not real.
Not to a lot of people who paid good money to see Rocky 3. However, let me give you another quick fact about that. Thunder Lips, of course, was played by the one and only Hulk Hogan. Here's a fact not many people might know. Hulk Hogan was actually fired from the WWF by Vince McMahon Sr. for taking this role in the movie. Of course, a couple years later, Vince Jr. hired him back, and the rest is wrestling history.
Hey, there's only one Scott Anderson. And there's only one Tony Schultz, a man that has worn almost every hat in boxing. Boxer, sparring partner, author, head of a clothing line, boxing lifestyle wear. You name it, the guy has done it. He's also literally written the book. Books, plural, books on how to promote fights successfully, dealing with commissions, dealing with promoters, dealing with boxers. You name it, he's most likely done it. We're here to welcome him back to the show. He's been going back and forth from his native New York City to Las Vegas to LA and much, much more. Tony, what's going on, my man?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Fred?
Doing all right. You've got a lot going on, man. Can you tell us about the Boxing Hall of Fame and your involvement?
Sure, yeah. So National Boxing Hall of Fame, it's one of of the three biggest Hall of Fames that there are in boxing. There's the International Boxing Hall of Fame in New York. There's the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame and the National Boxing Hall of Fame in Los Angeles. And the National Boxing Hall of Fame is actually starting to really gain a lot of traction. It's starting to bring in a lot of the boxing legends and their families and promote the, not only the history of the champions, but the history of boxing and how it's relevant and, kind of passing it on to the next generation. So the founders, Bill and Linda, actually asked me to come in and help them organize it, if you would, for lack of a better way of putting it, and just, really reach out to the different boxers, the promoters, everybody who's played a key or fundamental part in boxing, especially over the past half century, to really start telling the stories and to have that readily available to people who live in Los Angeles, people who travel to Los Angeles, and to make that kind of a key component of what's going on in LA, because there's some casinos that are really making a push for not only just promoting fights, but also, promoting the legacy of it. So we're working on bringing in some famous boxers, some of the boxers who made some of the famous boxers famous. We're going to reach out to my mentor, Don King, next year, bring him in as well, and just, not only have their stories out there, but some memorabilia and things like that readily available. So, when people come to the Hall of Fame, they can actually, see the backstory of it, not just what they read in the newspaper or read online or, remember seeing on the actual event, but see what actually caused that event and that fight to come together. Because for the most part, fights come together by the most trivial reasons. I mean, from everything I've ever worked on a fight, most of the fights never should have happened in the first place. But, at the last minute, the as they call it, the 25th hour, it just, everybody agrees to it and we move forward. And it's going to be a really fun event. We've got some really great people coming in to be inducted and to be a part of it and to participate in it. And we're bringing all their family, their friends, their fans out, and really just making a big deal out of it.
You've worn a ridiculous number of hats in the boxing industry, as I mentioned before. You literally have written the books on boxing promoting. But before becoming the expert, I would imagine you had to learn from a few experts yourself. Was boxing an industry you wanted to get into as a kid?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my grandfather was a boxer. My uncle was a boxer. My grandfather was a Golden Glove boxer. My uncle was a state champion, so I grew up in it. I started on the circuit with Mayweather back in the mid 90s. We worked the Midwest circuit together for a number of years. Then he went on to become pro. I went on to become a sparring partner. So I was Manny Pacquiao's sparring partner, his brother Bobby's sparring partner. I worked with Roy Jones Jr. I worked with Peter Manfredo Jr. on the Contender. As I got larger, I would work with James Toney and those kind of guys. So, yeah, I mean, I was a sparring partner for a number of years. And then Don King walked into Wildcard one day and said, hey, does anybody want to help me promote a fight? There was no money in it. It was just, a learning experience. But I said, sure, I'll try that. And so I started working with Don King. And within, I think it was like 3 or 4 fights, if I remember correctly, he actually had me running Don King Productions. So I ran that for a number of years, and then went over to Top Rank for a few fights because I was working with Manny Pacquiao, but just didn't get along with Bob too much. Then I ran Golden Boy for Richard Schaefer, for Oscar while I was in rehab, while Richard Schaefer was handling the day-to-day operations, until that was when Al Heyman came in and started working on trying to buy Golden Boy with the private equity firm. So yeah, I mean, I've been everything from a boxer to a sparring partner to running promotions to working with, I'm the exclusive promoter for the FDNY NYPD charity event at Madison Square Garden. I'm one of 7 promoters who actually are sanctioned, I guess is the right way to put it, to promote at Madison Square Garden, promoted at Staples Center. I'm authorized to run fights at MGM Grand and Caesar's Palace. So yeah, I mean, it's been a long journey, but it's been fun and just always finding something fun to do in boxing.
We'll be back with more of our Tony Schultz interview in just a bit. But as I mentioned at the top of the show, bullying, we're kicking it. I had the pleasure of covering their recent event in Manalapan, New Jersey, which featured not one, but 2 major boxing legends, Ray Mercer and Jerry Cooney, who talked about not only knocking out bullying, but a huge, crazy freak show fight that may actually become a reality. Fredrick Shani here at Bullion. We're kicking it Nob Hill Golf Course alongside a boxing legend. Mr. Cooney, what brings you here tonight?
Kicking is a great concept. I grew up in a household where I was bullied my whole life. Put down, not good enough, and boxing was my way out. At 16, I entered the Golden Gloves and learned how to fight. And I can remember as a kid, when I would see somebody bullying somebody else, I would take care of that guy. And that took me to boxing, and it changed my life for me, helped me build self-esteem and confidence in myself. And so I'm really glad to be a part of this here tonight. And it needs to be acknowledged and recognized, and I'm glad that I could be a part tonight.
What life lessons did boxing teach you along the way that made you say, you know what, after my career wraps up, I want to make a positive impact with my name?
Well, I mean, it's a confidence building. I work with a lot of at-risk kids, and I teach them boxing. And through boxing, once you learn how to box, you don't have to fight no more. If you can learn how to box, you can do anything. And you got to stay in school, and you got to work, and you got to fight the good fight. Yeah. And so that's what boxing taught me, to help me feel confident, make plans, make decisions. If I don't know how to do something, I can get help and ask the question, can you help me? And that's been all lifelong with me.
And you mentioned help because Bullion We're Kicking It helps a ton of kids, a ton of different families. And I guess in a way it's kind of like boxing because you said if you needed help, you went and got help. Would you kind of equate it to, like, say, if you're training for a big fight and having to bring in other coaches from other camps?
Well, it's the same thing. Like, I have to put my hand out there and say I need help. If I don't, no one knows I'm in trouble. And it's the same as boxing and training. I got to get better. I got to get stronger. I got to learn more. And this is all relative.
Before we let you go, sir, where can fans find you online? Anything you got coming up?
I'm on Sirius XM Monday, Friday night, the fights with Randy Gordon, Channel 93 Rush on Sirius XM. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And listen, it's a great life. Get out and play some golf.
Just one more question, if I can, because it's on everybody's mind. Is Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather going to happen in 2017?
I think it's got to happen. I think it's going to happen. I think it's a joke, because Conor McGregor can't get in the ring. I mean, if he was kicking and biting, maybe he could do something with Mayweather. But if it's just boxing, Mayweather's like the premier guy right now. I mean, do I think that Mayweather could beat Sugar Ray Leonard or Tommy Hearns or Roberto Duran? No, but he's a great fighter. And, McGregor's going to try and get on him for a few rounds until he gets tired. And then much like when Mayweather fought Marcos Maidana looked great until he got tired. Once he got tired, Mayweather took over and beat him pretty good. So McGregor's going to make a lot of money. He'll get an ass whooping.
Everybody, this is Fredrick Shani of TSC News here at the Bullying We're Kicking It networking event, Nob Hill Country Club in Manalapan, New Jersey, alongside boxing legend Ray Mercer. Mr. Mercer, what brings you here tonight?
With the kicking at the bullying thing, man, we're all about that. We're trying to strengthen our kids and get them to know how to handle bullying, and we're just here to support the anti-bullying school that Gina Marie has put together. And it's a great thing. We had Jerry Cooney here today. We have me here for like 3 years, 4 years, and we're moving up. We have the only anti-bullying school in the United States. I mean, it's the best thing ever. It's really growing. We're out there talking to people, trying to get people to join us in this fight. And, it's been working. People have been coming, as you can see tonight, a great crowd. And, it's just been growing, man. It's just amazing what Gina Marie can do, what one woman and a couple of people can do. I mean, she deserves all the credit.
Now, I know we're here kicking bullion, but you are a boxing legend. You've had some big fights throughout your career, so I got to ask you about the topic that's on everybody's mind. Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Do you think the fight will actually happen in 2017?
I think it will happen. I wish it was an MMA fight, but it's a boxing match, and McGregor, he can stand up and punch, and those kind of fights right there are scary for me. I don't know. McGregor's a tough guy, and Mayweather, he's getting old. Father Time catches up with you, and he's been retired, so his mind and everything's been relaxed, and I don't know if he can get back into it.
Always appreciate talking to Ray Mercer and Jerry Cooney. Thank you guys for the time. And now, back to our interview with Tony Schultz. The UFC, I think, is in a bit of a dilemma. The new owners, WME, IMG, spent well over $4 billion for the Ultimate Fighting Championship in 2016. And at the moment, right now, it does not look like they are going to be recouping that money anytime soon. So before, for months and months and months and months, we heard about Conor McGregor challenging Floyd Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather challenging Conor McGregor. And I think you and I were kind of on the same wavelength here. It's not going to happen. Why would the UFC risk its biggest money star against one of the greatest boxers of all time? But fast forward, maybe a year now of this speculation. Here we are. It looks like this fight is actually getting close to being made, to the point where UFC President Dana White's saying, yeah, there's too much money. It has to be made. It's even rumored that they're targeting September of 2017. It just blows my mind. And on one hand, I think this is great for Mayweather. I think it's great for McGregor from a financial standpoint. It's great for boxing because, let's face it, this is going to be a boxing matchup, okay? But at the same time, there's a part of me that feels like the UFC is making a gigantic mistake allowing its top star to be exposed like this. Tony, what are your thoughts on this crazy McGregor-Mayweather saga?
Honestly, I think it's all a publicity stunt. From everything that I hear from everybody from UFC, from boxing, from TMT, from the sanctioning bodies, it really feels like it's just something to keep boxing and MMA in the headlines, versus everything else that's kind of taken our attention. Right now, I mean, Floyd knows this, Dana White knows this, Conor McGregor knows this. The greatest thing that you can have or you can possess right now is somebody's attention. Whether you look at the retail industry, whether you look at the television industry, whatever. I mean, there's just so many things vying for our attention that it's so hard from one day to the next. I mean, even the Kardashians are having a hard time coming up with new ways to keep us interested in, not liking them. So I think that it's good for Dana White to just keep the rumor alive just so he can keep the UFC name out there. I think it's great for Conor McGregor to keep his name in the headlines for whatever he plans on doing next. For Floyd, I don't quite understand it because, Floyd's trying to move everything over to Mayweather Promotions. So he's really stealing a lot of the limelight from several of his fighters. Although Adrian Broner yesterday getting arrested in Cincinnati definitely overshadowed Floyd for one night as far as that goes. But yeah, I don't quite understand what they're trying to pull off as far as, where they want to take it. I understand the headlines, but as far as how they want to play it, in the future, like where they want to take it, I'm not sold on any of this yet myself. Just from everything that's coming in, but the best I've got is that they're trying as hard as they can to steal the limelight from Golden Boy and the Chavez versus Alvarez fight. They feel like if they can keep their name in the media as much as that fight is, and they win. But beyond that, I don't know where it goes.
You've obviously been very successful in the boxing industry. Is there any piece of free advice you can give anybody watching here that hopes to be successful in boxing or just in life in general?
Yeah, I mean, same thing as always. I mean, you know, self-confidence, believe in yourself, which is really hard to do at first because, you know, it's hard to believe in yourself when nobody else does. But once you have an idea that you really love, whether it's you want to become a pro boxer or you want to become, you know, an MMA star, or hell, I mean, you could just want to become the best ad executive in the world. But whatever it is, like, just, you know, go out, believe in yourself, and find your personality. Find a way to connect that with people. And you're going to do great. I mean, the people I enjoy working with most are people who, you know, just love what they do and love it with a passion, whatever it is. I mean, it could be the guy, you know, at Starbucks that just loves making coffee. You know, people love being baristas sometimes, and that's amazing because that coffee tastes so much better than the person who hates their job for whatever reason. I don't know. But yeah, boxers who just love boxing and just want to get that world title. And, you know, it's not about the money. I mean, of course, everybody wants a better life and they want to create something better for themselves. But more than anything, they just want the pride of holding that title. Man, those people are just so amazing to be around every day. You get excited about waking up and hanging out with them and spending time with them and just really, I hate to use the word, you know, infected by, but I just can't think of anything else. You just get infected by their passion and enthusiasm for life. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, whatever it is you do, just, you know, as long as you love it, it's going to come around.
If you want to check out Tony Schultz's clothing line and book series known as Fight Town, visit fighttown.net and stay tuned next week on youtube.com/The Sports Courier for the extended interview. Man, that Tony Schultz is a wealth of boxing information. Thanks so much to Tony for the time. I appreciate all our guests' time today. Folks, if you want more TSC news, please feel free to log on to youtube.com/The Sports Courier. Hit us up on Twitter at Sports Courier, Instagram at TSC News. You can also follow me on Twitter at Fredrick Shani, SoundCloud.com/TSC News for all our podcasts. You see it all on the screen right there. You name it, we got it. Until next time, everybody, join TSC News next week with an in-depth interview with Brian Alvarez of WrestlingObserver.com. Plus, a special look at the New York International Auto Show at the Jacob Javits Center.